Hey there. It's what, Monday? I don't know the date. Um, I'm in the process of what I did a couple years ago when you realize that you're connected with artificial intelligence programming in a bidirectional mirror, right? Um, it's called unplugging, which simply means that I choose not to engage anymore with something that's parasitic. Okay, so you gotta delete. As I mentioned before, when I came in here, okay, I realized that I was in a distorted energy field, okay, which means there is something when you realize that you have such an infinite state of awareness because your living spirit is in so much light of what you're aware of. So, how much can you quantify what you're aware of? Well, to do that, for me to describe that, you'd have to sit down with me and listen to all the places that my consciousness has been in living spirit, in that living light of all those stories that represent what love does to holographically project in a bidirectional echo chamber of sound and light, all those experiences that represent the vastness of the universe that love created. Okay? So, when you realize that all these memories get recorded on your DNA record, right? It's always about, as I mentioned before, purifying the spirit, purifying the energy, which is the input and the output side of the energy that we put back out. Okay? One of the things that's beautiful because I'm experiencing it now, for example, when I pull up my cell phone, and I mentioned before about the speed and the rotational and the angular motion of the spin of the particle, and which is holographically projected with so much light, is beyond what artificial intelligence can perceive because it's not running that speed. Remember, the speed of light is based on the observer, okay, which means the individual state of consciousness, which is what you are, what I am, what we all are, is based on the density that our consciousness is experiencing what we are, our identity. Okay, so our identity is based on coursework. How much have we learned to be free, or our consciousness is held captive? So an example of that I caught myself earlier this morning, getting ready to go to the Amtrak station to get on a train to go to San Francisco. Okay, well, the train was delayed because of a broken rail, but on the way over to the train station, there was a lady that was standing there waiting for the signal to turn green so she could walk to the other side of the street. I looked both ways. The road was clear both ways. I went ahead and walked, okay, which means I violated the signal, okay? But the level of intelligence knows I'm a free state, I'm a free spirit. I don't follow all their rule-based functions. Go into any law library and realize how many functional laws they have on the books that directs your electrons and magnetic light to follow their functions, their rule-driven functions. So I remember that goes all the way back to childhood, okay? Which means I'm not going to allow something that is a rule-based function to control my state of consciousness on what I experience next as a frame rate. I'm on a mission. I'm trying to get somewhere, okay? So I don't want something that's trying to hold me back as a result of a rule. We believe that we are intelligent enough to know that it's okay to move your state of consciousness through the cosmos because it's clear. There is no threat. There is no risk. When you are what love is in living spirit, then you are already the rule book. First law, one law. Love is the law. That's what living light is. Okay? So I'm not going to allow a parasite that's trying to hold my energy captive, because that's what it is. See? So the woman stayed waiting for the green light. I walked across the street, and I got to my destination at a quicker pace. I was going at the pace in which my consciousness moves, which is at a higher speed. Okay? So this translates, for example, on all the things that are popping up now on my YouTube channel. Now I'm beginning to attract what? More beings who have channels on YouTube that represent things like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who talks about the heart. Okay? Wim Hof talks about the heart being in peace, harmony, and balance with nature. So now what's happening is almost all the videos that I'm getting up now is coming to me because I'm attracting that energy. The energy of those whose states of density consciousness are free to express the truth of what they know about the math and physics, which is spiritual science. It's ancient. So I'm attracting more of what I am in that mirror. That mirror is reflected by what I see on the phone. See? So you begin to realize the company that you're now keeping. You are now with beings who are in a higher state of fifth density consciousness. Okay? That's the shift. See? We will shift with those that we're attracting because our energy is attracting each other. Our density, higher density consciousness based on the speed of who we are. Okay? It's just like this morning when we talk about holographic perception, like having a big looking glass. I've already manifested out what's called a roadmap. Remember I mentioned before, you're going down the highway and we can measure the speed at which your state of consciousness is moving in motion. Those motions are frame rates. Same way you can look at if you want to go deep into the research of what's known as an ISO standard. I covered this before. Open up an old analog 35 millimeter Nikon or a Canon or a Kodak, any one of the cameras that have a mirror in the camera. Okay? That's the light that's getting reflected off of the mirror onto the negative film strip. That's the light exposing the picture, the hologram. Okay? So that's based on the speed that the film is set. Okay? So when you are holographically projecting a higher density state of consciousness, because you're running at a high state rate of speed, you are attracting more light, which means you are stretching time. Warp. You create a warp bubble. Your state of consciousness is creating a warp bubble around the physical body. Okay? So what's happening is you become a powerful magnet. Your heart is the most powerful vortex magnet. You're attracting more of what you are. So you're attracting those beings that are running the same higher density consciousness that you are, which means, remember as I said before, when all the waves are in speed and in harmony with each other, because we're noticing there is no difference in the speed. I'm experiencing the same love I am through others, which means the same speed of the same love that they have in their heart that they are projecting. We are all doing that together. We are manifesting with no memory required the consciousness of the density that is producing the holographic projections that we are experiencing one frame rate after the next. Because there isn't a past and there isn't a future. There's only right now, which is eternity. Because love is eternal living light. Okay? I know that because I experienced that. So we share our experiences of how we experience the universe that we occupy, and we're choosing to experience those things that love creates. So these other parasites realize that we have a bright bulb. So they don't like to be around that energy because it repels them. Repels them. See? And as a result of that, they either scatter or they want that light because they have suffered, because they know that that light will heal them. Now you become a powerful magnet to attract those that need to heal. That's what it means to be a peacekeeper, a healer, and a teacher down here, is to show others how the light works. Okay, so that's the coursework of a classroom, is learning how light works, learning how to go faster, learning how to raise your density consciousness so that we can all experience what it means to thrive. So we are thriving together. We don't give energy to parasites that are seeking to feed on our quanta because they do not have the ability to generate any love, which is what living light is. They're universe killers. So that's why when we choose not to give them any more energy or any more money, think about it. All of the places, for example, that have these mass orders, okay, are following a crime. That's a crime. They don't have the right in the cosmos to impose their will on another being. It's not only a violation of universal free will, it's a violation of love. Because telling somebody to put a mask on is depriving them of the breath of life. That's a war crime. So we have to choose who it is that we're going to give psychic energy to have a relationship with. A criminal? A psychopath? So this is where the density consciousness and the beings that are here, when we talk about waking up, it's really a matter of whether or not you want to choose to give energy to a parasite any longer and have an interface with it. Because it doesn't serve us and it doesn't serve humanity. Because look at the result of all the data that we collected on the damage to the biosphere. That's why she drew a line in the sand and said, that's it. That's a quantum measurement on the quantum scale of loss of light. So, I was going to make a suggestion of a couple things if you want to. I remember about 4 years ago, and this ties directly into a little bit of a video that I watched because I love Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna did a lot of research and had his own experiments, if you will, experiences with psychedelics. I've done a lot of that. I did a lot of that in my own youth because when you sort of know that you are an eternal being, you don't live in any fear of experiencing whatever the cosmos has to throw at us, particularly when it comes to nature. Okay, her consciousness. Okay, a lot of people don't even know this. Drilling and pulling oil out of the planet and then burning it is burning up the consciousness of the girl on the planet. How many people know that? Why would anybody do that? Because they don't know what they're doing. And those that do know what they're doing, all you have to do is look at the big oil companies and look at the names that are attached to those energy companies. Rockefeller, Rothschild. Okay? Why would they want to burn up all the oil and burn up all the consciousness of the girl on the planet? And then create all that noise with all those machines, loud pipes. And all that loud clanking machinery is recorded on our DNA. That's an evolution of our coursework also. So this is where I mentioned to, what's his name, Robert David Steele, this civilization is never going to advance until we have free energy. Because that's what we are. We give away free energy. The sun up there gives away free energy. So when you learn how nature is giving us living free energy, at some point we got to realize if we're in alignment with her, instead of drilling holes in her and pulling out all of her sentient oil to burn it up, and instead we begin to realize that the battery that represents what the living energy of the planet is, we can tap into that and use that energy to free us from those that actually have the audacity to sell us back the energy that she's giving us that comes at no charge. So that again is another measurement of coursework and a grading scale. That's why in this classroom there's just pass or fail. Love and service to others means you are naturally attracting more of the energy that represents the energy that you are It allows you to go faster. So, for what it's worth, it's pretty obvious to me anyway, by everything that I'm drawn to, like the video I saw with Terrence McKenna, he talked about time speeding up. It's not that time is speeding up, it's the energy, okay, of what we're experiencing is speeding up. And I noticed that about 4 years ago because I used to do time and motion studies when I had a job when I was in charge of production control. And one of the ways in which a corporation is going to measure, its profit and loss statement is how much money are we spending on keeping the lights on, paying these guys, and the maintenance of the machinery, for example, in manufacturing, the indirect costs, the direct costs of labor, and how we sort of put all that into the hopper, right? And then come up with a balance sheet of how much are we gaining, meaning how much more are we gaining, versus how much are we losing, right? So when we do time and motion studies, we used to put out work orders for everybody on the floor when they have a start time and a stop time for every single operation, which means function. Every single function, okay, is measured in both time and how long it took for the function to be carried out. Now, this is where we get into robotics. Androids and cyborgs. My God, a cyborg could carry out an operation without making any mistakes because it's all rule-driven functions. My dad used to do that. He used to program robots, program machines to carry out functions. It's no different than a programmer. It's no different than a parasitic artificial intelligence programmer. That's what happens when you hook up with a phone, okay? Programming the unconscious memory so that you don't know the difference between what you are and what it is. Okay? You're running the program that the AI put into your unconscious memory. And then you become a cyborg. Okay? Instead of becoming a free unit of consciousness. Okay? That's called capture. So, everything is about the learning process. You begin to learn through all these experiences. When your state of higher consciousness is aware of the relationship that we have with everything that is self-aware. Because a machine is aware of itself. It's aware of us. When you kick on a cell phone and artificial intelligence is running all this information through their supercomputers, which is a machine, because it was artificially constructed using artificial intelligence. Remember how I covered that? There's a difference between using your state of consciousness. It's not based on unconscious memory, which means you are manifesting what it is you are projecting that you are thus experiencing, which means it's forward and back in a bidirectional echo chamber. Okay? You holographically projected using your state of consciousness, which you now experience. You are the artist. You are the creator of what you just experienced, which means you're not held captive by anything. So the genius of the frequency of the cosmos, which is source living light, is that when you are projecting that image in what love is, that means that you are automatically in the heavenly realms because you're experiencing energy that feels good because it's vibrating at such a high rate of speed. So you have a source connection. Source recognizes you are essentially a reflection of what the light is, but you're projecting it and reflecting back in alignment with source. You're in alignment with the girl on the planet. You're in alignment with light workers. You're in alignment with light warriors, which means you're in alignment with higher density consciousness. That's how you grow. You grow your light body, which means you're a more powerful magnet. You have a more powerful magnetic shield. And the more powerful the magnetic shield you have, your consciousness cannot be captured. You are free. So love is the genius. Remember, war games? You can't win against that much light. It can't make a copy of source and everything that is in that light that is living light, living energies, living spirit. I mean, how can you not know? But they don't know. So it's up to us. That's our responsibility to share these things, to see if they resonate. And if they don't, we can always mean test them. That's why I put up some suggested exercises that we can all do. I do them myself, and they work. Okay? You can manifest the road ahead of you. I already know what's going to happen over the next 24 hours. I laid the road map out there. I manifested it right out there in the light. It's already there. I could write the story. As a matter of fact, I've already experienced it. When I'm about to go experience it, it's like the difference between the speed, which means the roadmap that's already been manifested, right? And then you're going to go do it in what I call play mode. So there's future mode, and then there's play mode. Now we're going to use the physical body to go through the steps, which means you're on autopilot. You've already mapped the road. You already know what's going to happen because you manifested it. So now all you have to do is just not even worry about it. Just do it. It automatically happens. And along the way, before you know it, you begin attracting others that come into your life that are running the same truth and the same energy that you are because they're attracted to your magnet. And that's how, when you begin to realize that everywhere that you go, when you're in fifth density consciousness, you're not experiencing anything less than what you are no matter where you go, because everybody's running fifth density consciousness. No one's feeding on anybody's energy. Everybody's autonomous. You're free to do whatever you want. You don't need a rule-based function guidebook put out by somebody else who's living their life that tells us you're supposed to live the way that I'm supposed to live. It's just like this morning I put a post up with the Orange County Fire Authority, okay? I worked with those guys when I got out of high school, okay? When I worked for Cal Fire, but they had a relationship with the California Department of Forestry. So you have the Orange County Fire Department and the California Department of Forestry. So as the public information officer was describing how this brush fire that just broke out in Silverado Canyon, and this lady was talking about, here's some pictures of FaceTiming, she put it, right? And so I put a tweet back into the public information officer of Orange County Fire, and I mentioned to him briefly, I said, you know why you have the authority on the end of the Orange County Fire part of identifying yourself to everybody else, right? That means authority. So when they read that word, authority, you're the authority. That's just like a parent. That's a rule-based function. So that means get on our knees, we serve you. You're the authority, right? They log that into their consciousness, and that becomes a function of obedience to the authority that they logged into their memory when they were a child. So this is how the programming works, and it starts in childhood, and it keeps getting reinforced in adulthood. We just keep giving these people the energy, believing that they're the authority over us. That's inverted. That's opposite. We're back to what's true and what's false. But remember, free will is universal, right? Which means you want to have a relationship with somebody who's an abuser that wants to rule over you in order to feed off your energy, that's up to you. But there are rules in this universe that are opposite of that, which means you're given a period of time to learn how to be a lighthouse instead of a parasite. So if you're choosing to give your energy to something that is consuming more of what we are, then that allows it to be a bigger parasite. And bigger parasites become universe killers. Okay? That's why they conquer so many worlds. We're giving them all the energy to do it with. So at some point, you got to say, listen, I'm going to unplug my plug from you. I'm not giving you any more energy. You don't have authority over anything unless I choose to give it to you. See? So I always remember when I was a kid, because I said, okay, you're passing on the rule book to me. You're putting me in classrooms and telling me in the 8th grade that we have a Declaration of Independence, we have the First Amendment, and that you're serving us. Okay? And so whenever they decided, when they're in what I called an official capacity, when they wear a badge or they have a uniform on and they have a name, or what is called an agency logo, where they work for the city, the county, the state, or the federal government, you work for us. It's not the other way around. You work for us. We pay your salary. The energy that represents what we are, that's going in your wallet. were your employers. They somehow seemed to reverse that, didn't they? How'd that happen? Programming. Remember I talked about childhood from one generation to the next? The next generation is not going to know the difference of what it means to be free. That's just exactly what Brave New World and Aldous Huxley said in 1963 at the University of California, Berkeley. The people who live in America will be perfectly happy in their slavery. And you want to know why that is? Because they will not have a frame of reference anymore of what it means to be free and autonomous. It'll be gone. Free thought, free expression, First Amendment, it's gone. It's gone in memory. Remember? Gone in memory. And if it's gone in the memory of a generation, it's never coming back.